Thank you so much for that, Mark. I mean, honestly, I always kind of feel reinvented every time you introduce me. So thank you for that. Manoj, when he gave us the welcome address yesterday, he said that, he promised that he wouldn't do death by PowerPoint. Unfortunately, the rest of us have not been able to, save you from that. But you're just 10 slides away, okay? So that's the good news. So the topic today is resilience. And I will take 2 shortcuts when I'm presenting this. And I'll tell you along the way when I'm taking those shortcuts, right? The first, I want to start with defining resilience. Now, there is a general consensus, and we have arrived at this last year, yesterday during my roundtable conversation and all of that. There's a general consensus that there is complete alignment between business and technology today. If that is the case, then your concept of resilience can't be just cyber resilience or network resilience or just focused on cybersecurity or anything like that. It has to be much broader. So if it is much broader, let's start by defining that broad definition. Yeah? So what is resilience? I did a little bit of research on this, started with a dictionary, started with psychology terms and things like that, and then this is what I came down to. It is understanding the criticality of business processes, not just one business process, every business process in your organization. Because as I said, we are aligned that you are business leaders, number one. Secondly, it is identifying the dependence on technology. All your business processes are not equally dependent on technology, right? So identifying that dependence. Thirdly, evaluating the business impact if the technology fails, whether it's a breach, whatever may be the case, what is the impact on the business? And finally, and I think that is the toughest part for cyber leaders, is mapping those measures. You know that these are the things that we need to do to keep our organization resilient, but you need to kind of map them to the leadership's risk appetite, right? So that is the tough part. So if you look at it, if you're an e-commerce company, you know that your customers are important. Marketing and sales is an important function. You know the criticality of that business process. You know that your CRM solution is heavily dependent on technology. Maybe it's not replaceable, right? If there is an outage there, you're in trouble. You know, evaluating the business impact, if it goes down 5 days before Diwali or 7 days before Diwali, that's a huge business impact, right? It's going to have an immediate effect on your bottom line. And finally, you've got it all. You know the criticality, but your leadership tells you that it's okay. You don't need to invest that little bit of money to secure it even more, right? So that is resiliency, taking the whole business to technology angle. Which brings me to how you define resilience today. And this is my first shortcut. The advantage of being the last presenter is your colleagues have already done the hard work for you, right? They've already spoken about these forms of resilience. We've talked about business resilience. Pete spoke about it. Uli spoke about it this morning as well. I've also spoken about business resilience redefined. And this is actually going back to what Pete said, that you have to be ahead of your competition today, right? And that's where innovation comes in. So it's not just business as usual, it's also innovating at pace. So that's the other business resilience, right? And then we have workforce resilience. We heard from Anubhav yesterday about how the whole skills shortage is being handled, about how AI and automation is being used to optimize skills and all of that. We heard about the hybrid work patterns and employee experience expectations from speakers at Logitech, right? So we have covered that workforce resilience as well. And earlier today, we spoke about cloud and infrastructure resilience and agility. The need not to have a cloud-first policy, but to have a cloud-right policy, right? We've done that. But there are two topics that we haven't really touched upon, and under normal circumstances, I'd kind of, merge them. But I want to talk a little bit about network resilience, slightly separately, and there's a reason for that. And then you have cyber resilience, which is going to be the bulk of my presentation. Now, why the need for network resilience? This is known. We all know that. All of you run distributed enterprises, yeah? You have endpoints everywhere. Your employees are working from everywhere. You have no idea of actually when the surge is going to come from. So that is a given. Your customers, they are, accessing digital services anytime, anywhere. Again, you don't know where the surge is going to come from, right? And of course, there is IoT. Now, there is the emergence of the edge, and we have spoken about that. There is also the growing need to avoid backhauling, right? You don't want to take everything back to the command center because it's expensive. So all of that is there. But what I want to ask you, and this is something, if it hasn't come up in your organization yet, I'm predicting that this will come up in the next 1 to 2 years, is there is going to be a little bit of a turf war between the CIO and the CISO when it comes to ownership of the network. And the reason for that is we already have software-defined network. But look at what technology companies are doing, right? If you look at it, Cisco has acquired a cybersecurity company. All those network infrastructure companies are heavily investing in cybersecurity. They're pushing SASE and things like that. So, is it the mandate of the CIO or is it the mandate of the CISO? Again, something that you need to watch out for. And I'm hoping there's not going to be a huge turf war over it, but there's something that you need to kind of keep in mind over the next year or so. Now let's talk about cyber resilience. And this is my second shortcut, right? I'm going to use the data that you shared with us, the survey link that we sent earlier this year. You filled that out and you sent it over to us. So I'm going to use data from that to tell you where you are really doing well and areas that you need to kind of focus a little bit more. We've talked about this. It's a good news. 86% of your board conversations are about cyber resilience. That's fantastic, and that's a great opportunity for you as technology leaders. When we talked about technology modernization, cyber resilience underpins every little investment that you make in whatever technology that you're making. Again, great news, right? So you've already taken that first step towards cyber resilience. So at ecosystem, when we're doing the ecosystem consulting engagements, we help organizations with their policies, their people strategy, and framing the technology roadmap. That's part of what we do. So I'll focus on these three angles and tell you where you're doing well and where you need to kind of refocus a little bit. So, presenting your report card. Do you have the right policy? Last year, when I was doing a similar session here, the debate was whether cybersecurity should be compliance-led or risk-led. We had pretty much the same conversation yesterday. The consensus has been that compliance is a wonderful place to start. It gives you a checklist, but that is not the only way to approach. You need to look at the risk that your organization is in. So, only 33% of organizations in India said that they have a compliance-based cyber strategy, which is fantastic news. You've gone beyond compliance. And it's great news for industries which are not heavily regulated, where you don't have that compliance checklist. 85%, I spoke about resilience and I spoke about business impact. 85% you conduct business impact assessments of security incidents. Again, we all know the threat landscape has completely exploded. There are, Manoj spoke about it, right? There are geopolitical issues and all of that, which is kind of seeing these surges. And they're coming from unexpected areas and things like that. 53% will focus on zero trust. And I don't think there are lots of technology vendors out there who push zero trust as a technology solution. I don't think zero trust is a technology solution. It is a policy. When you're actually going up to the CEO and saying that, sorry, dude, you might be the most important person in the organization, but we can't trust your network, or we can't trust, we have to have access control. That is a policy, right? That's not just a technology. And then you have business continuity plans specific to breaches, close to 75%. That's also good, right? So where do you need to refocus? You have the business continuity plan. 48% said that we revisit our incident response plan once a year. I would think that you need to revisit it constantly. But even that, 52% don't even do that. They've got an incident response plan, and that's it. Ho gaya, But that's not it. You need to keep revisiting it. Only 24% involve HR in their incident response plan. Now think about it. You have a breach. The teller in the bank is the most impacted because there's a customer standing right there in front of him and her or her. The CEO knows what to do. The CEO is talking to marketing. The CEO is giving press conferences. They're, fighting the fire there. The CIO, CISO, they know what to do, right? They're huddled somewhere. But how does that employee work? What does that employee need to do? So if you're not involving HR in your incident response plan, if it's not percolating down to every employee, there is definitely a gap there. Which is a fantastic segue to the people part of resilience. I would have liked this percentage to be slightly higher, actually a lot higher, but 64% you have a dedicated CISO, not report into the CIO, report directly to the CEO or the board. Yet, you are having trouble finding cyber skills. We've spoken about that. And more than that, you are having trouble with awareness. And this is where it comes back to why don't you involve HR in these conversations? When you had to do hybrid work really fast and change policies, you did involve HR. There was an HR technology alignment. So keep that alignment going. And another reason why that, you're having that 86% of the conversation that you have with boards is around cybersecurity. So push for more responsibility to be taken by leadership. Organization-wide KPIs, where the CEO is also responsible if there is a breach. The head of marketing is responsible if more than 5% or 10%, depending on your risk appetite, employees actually click on a phishing link, right? So that should kind of percolate down from the CEO all the way down. And then finally, why we're all here, cyber technology. Great news here, right? 86% of organizations in India will increase investments in cyber technology in 2024. There are a lot of technologies, all the best deciding which technology you need to invest in. Same with resilience, more than 60% there. 62% conduct attack simulations. Aarti, you were talking about attack simulations yesterday at the round table. 72% use network segmentation, microsegmentation. You are focusing on technology. And that's good news. Only about a third of you have invested in cyber ROI calculation tools. So how do you know that your investments are actually reaping benefits? How do you know that these investments are keeping your organization safe? And if you have, I promise that I'll do this, Abhijit. So if you have any questions about, ROI tools, please refer them to Abhijit. He's been, for the last 1 year, he's sent me many, many really interesting articles about solutions and capabilities of these tools. And they have evolved. That's a good thing about technology. That's a good thing about the industry that you are in. It keeps evolving and so fast. I spoke about a risk-led approach and a compliance-led approach. Of those who said that they have a risk-led approach, only 20% say that they have an intelligence-led approach. Now, the risk changes much faster these days. You know, if you look at it, you woke up one morning and then you found a war happening in another part of the world. You have businesses there. So your risks change. So you have to have a more real-time view of it. It has to be an intelligence-led strategy. And that's where it comes to. We have spoken about skills shortage in cybersecurity, but if you ask what are the technologies that you're going to be focusing on, automation and security analytics is not the key technology that you are thinking of. And that is a red flag. Similarly, you're not thinking about threat intelligence or endpoint detection. And when I say you, I don't mean you individually. I'm sure many of you are doing it, but as an aggregate, organizations in India. Now that I've presented the report card, it's just basically a little summary of what I did say. Decide who owns the network. I know many of you are thinking that now that's not really a problem, but we are seeing the turf wars start in Australia. We've seen that happen in Singapore. If it's not happening in India, it will happen very soon. Because you've got a relationship with a network vendor as an infrastructure lead. But your cyber lead also has that relationship. So who's going to have that relationship in the future? You need to think about that. You need to involve HR when it comes to your people challenges, of course, not just for recruitment, but a little beyond that, percolating your entire strategy down. And you're having all this lovely conversations with the board. Convince them that the KPIs are set across the organization from the top down. And finally, don't invest in tools and technology. Last year when we spoke, one of the biggest challenges that all of you spoke about was lack of observability, lack of visibility, the proliferation of tools. We don't even know how many tools that we have. We don't know what is protected and what is not protected because there might be overlaps, there might be gaps, right? So, but you keep repeating that mistake, investing in more tools and technology. Think about where you can get that intelligence from. And that is all. I kept it really short and sweet. It's the end of the session for you, and we have a lovely panel discussion after this. If you have any questions, that's my email address. You'll find me on LinkedIn. Please do keep the connection going. Don't want to meet you guys just once a year. Yeah? Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sash Mukherjee.